Okay, let's begin. Quiet, please. So, every year, I need your full attention, please. Sit up, pay attention. Every year we have this meeting, and this year, if you're a senior, we're going to do this kind of a little differently. We're going to hit on some major points. Six, actually. Six really important points. When you walk out of here, not only do you have to know when it comes to the handbook, there's no warning, there's no explanation, like it's your responsibility. And then instead of going through a litany of other things, we're going to do that in mentor groups, which started today. We're going to have two stories with one overarching theme. And then after that, we're going to have closing remarks and a prayer. So that's pretty much the schedule. As a teacher, I like to kind of put it out there what the plan is so you know where we're at as we go through it. That's the plan. I'm going to use this computer a little bit. The screen's kind of not working. I just kind of want to back up. So, if you have ever heard Coach Baxley give a devotion, he always talks about like where you are in your spiritual journey. And after we get through some of these key points from the handbook, I have some news. If you're just starting or have not started your spiritual journey, today's presentation is really for you. And you'll see that hopefully at the end. If you are just starting your spiritual journey, you've begun to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, this is also really good news for you. If you have already committed yourself, Noah, to a relationship with Jesus Christ, the hard truth is this presentation might be difficult for you because it's going to put accountability on you to that commitment. So I know that sounds kind of, usually people think the other way, but that's the way this presentation is kind of goes. So let's kind of go through this. The Honor Council presented to you last week, and these are the main tenets of our honor code. The one thing I wanted to point out, which is something I see in my role often that kids necessarily don't understand, if you have committed an honor code violation pertaining to academics, I want you to understand at minimum, it's a 0 on that assignment. So if you're coming in from middle school ninth graders, or maybe you haven't thought about this in a while, upperclassmen, it's an automatic 0. Whether it's a test, a quiz, a paper, doesn't matter. It's a 0. So one thing I've seen in my discussions with students who have done honor code violations is really they procrastinate. They wait till the last minute. They're tired, it's usually late at night, and they make a bad decision. So avoid those things. Organize your work. Use office hours. Use drop-in periods. Stay ahead of your stuff. Work on the weekends a little bit. Get ahead of the week. Don't allow procrastination to push you to a point where you make a bad decision, because a 0 in any grade book is far worse than a late grade. Way worse. I've seen it. And that's an automatic I want you to understand. All right, the dress code. We've done a really good job of pushing the dress code forward, and you can see here on the screen, it's your responsibility to discipline yourself here. Mark Cadore used to say, I learned this a long time ago, it's the first note. If you discipline yourself, others won't have to. I don't go around trying to find people who have violated dress code, because my expectation is you're disciplined enough to meet the dress code. And when I come across someone who's not, then there's an issue. So why do we have the uniform? It's something bigger than yourself. It's not just about you. It's about a school uniform. The points of emphasis, you can see them right there. Boys, haircuts matter. Make sure you're clean shaven. Girls, the skirt length matters. Make sure it's the right length. Tennis shoes. We've added that option, but it's really simple. All white, all leather. All white, all leather. Running shoes, they get dirty. Canvas, synthetic, gets dirty. It's no good. We want to look like a uniform. So all white, all leather. And then if you need to look at the family handbook, that's the link. It's online. It's really easy to see. And one last note, boys, if you do forget to shave, I have these lovely single blade Bic razors in my office that you're more than welcome to come up and use. In truth, they're awful, But if I catch you not shaving, that's what you're going to be using. All right, attendance and tardies. The expectation is for you to be here. All right, we as a school, I don't know if you're aware, we have to meet state standards. So we also have accreditation standards as a private school. So Georgia, the state of Georgia, says you have to do X, Y, and Z. And then we're a part of SACS. Like the reason why your diploma matters, we're accredited. There's some schools out there that are not accredited. There's some counties that are not accredited. We are accredited. So we have to follow these guidelines. So the expectation here is pretty straightforward. Whoops. There we go. The warning bell rings at 8:05. The first period starts at 8:10. Be in your class by 8:10. If you're not, you have to go to Ms. Strami and get a note. It'll be the excused or unexcused, but you have to get a note. And just as a reminder, okay, if 2 unexcused arrival marks in a week is a minor. 5 total is a minor, okay? Unexcused arrivals after 8:25, those are class cuts. That's a major detention. And then 3 unexcused tardy marks to any class is a minor detention. The expectation is for you to be here. On that note, if you are going to miss a day, we have pre-planned absence forms in Mrs. Strami's office. It's your responsibility to complete that form 1 to 2 days prior. If you hand me a form after you've been out, it doesn't count. It's not going to be excused. It's got to be done beforehand, not after. Again, it's an expectation. We expect you to be here as much as possible. And just so you know, there is a correlation between honor code violations and students that miss school. Those that miss a lot of school, miss a lot of instruction, and they get behind. And when they get behind, they get into bad situations and they make bad decisions. There's absolutely, because I see it, a direct correlation there. All right, cell phones. We made a push a couple years ago to allow cell phones. They actually used to not be allowed at all. And I thought like we were creating a culture of deception. I don't like that. I want us to learn how to use them. So it's really simple. I got to keep doing this. I'm looking at mine. There are 3 places, and only 3 places during the school day you can use your cell phone. The first is if you're a junior or senior, it's kind of a privilege for you. You just go in the lounge. If you are not a junior or senior, or you could be as well, you can go to the student workroom. There's one upstairs, and there's a couple downstairs in that room, not in a hallway. And then outside of any building. This includes during free period or lunch. Just because it's lunchtime, you don't have your cell phone out in the hallway. We have what's called a speaking tradition on this campus, which means we actually talk to each other. Okay, I don't want to walk down the hallway and see kids buried in their cell phone, checking their social media accounts. People have been talking to each other face to face for centuries. It's amazing. Don't be afraid to try it. Like, you actually get to know someone. What's hilarious is when 2 people are sitting on a bench and they're actually on the same social media account, just communicating with each other, not saying a word. That's a wasted opportunity to actually talk to someone. So that's the expectation. This is a speaking campus. Make sure you follow the speaking tradition and follow these guidelines. If you can't, we just kind of take the cell phone away from you. There we go. I'm getting the hang of it. Drug testing. We have 24/7, 365 policy against alcohol and drugs. We have drug testing. It's random. Your grade chair will come up to you and select you for testing on a day. We try to get it so it happens during a non-academic period. So perhaps during a Monday morning meeting, a Tuesday flex, a Friday club activity time. Could be another time as well. We could do it during lunch. Anytime that happens, your expectation is to go and get tested. If you're having trouble going, you have to go to a doctor that day and get tested. That's a little more painful than just getting tested here because the doctor uses this thing called a catheter. So make sure when you get selected, understand you're getting tested that day. There's no way to float that. Okay. This slide, food and drink policy. We've also, like we've added cell phones, we've also expanded the ability for you to take food out of the cafeteria. So you can see there's the policy. It's teacher discretion inside of the classroom. The expectation is for you to clean up after yourself. The one thing that I really like to stress is this year especially, Please return your plates, your trays, whatever you take out of the cafeteria that needs to be returned back. Silverware, plates, they have to go back. We just want to be good stewards of the campus as much as possible. On that note, this is more for freshmen. I want you all to understand that I get emails from parents sometimes, and it starts off with, usually after a student gets in trouble, it was totally my fault. And they go into this long novel that, I'll be honest, like I really don't read. Like when I get like 3-page paragraphs from parents that start off with, this is my fault, it's not. The accountability, this is high school, the accountability is on you. Okay, it's not on your parents, it's on you. You sign the handbook, you say you know the rules, you want responsibility. We do things to try and help. As you get more privileges when you become a junior and a senior, there's that responsibility and accountability factor, so it's on you. So if you don't know, ask a teacher, ask your grade share, but the expectation is that you do know. Okay, so the next, I told you we'd go over the key points, that's it. Then we have 2 stories. The first story is going to be from Mrs. Stevenson.
Thanks. Get the clicker, Mr. Koch. We on, Matthew? Okay, perfect. Maya Angelou is a famous author and poet. She died just a couple years ago. I am not familiar with all of her work, but this quote of hers I think of almost every single day because I know firsthand that it is true. People will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. When I was in 4th grade, there's this boy named Curtis. Curtis had a rat tail. Curtis wore the same purple Colorado Rockies t-shirt with holes in it to school every single day. This is when I went to Barnwell Elementary, it was before I came to Wesleyan. Curtis used to pick his nose during the Pledge of Allegiance, and he would flick his boogers on people. Curtis was also a liar. He would make up lies about his family. He told everybody that his dad was best friends with Bobby Cox, which in the 90s, that was like saying your dad was best friends with like the President of the United States. And he'd say, my family's going to move in next door to Bobby Cox. He's best friends with my dad. You know kids like this, kids who make up lies to make themselves sound cool. Curtis didn't have any friends. Nobody liked Curtis. He was picked on. He was annoying. There was another kid in my 4th grade class named Bobby Cool. That was really his name, Bobby Cool. And Bobby Cool was cool. Everybody used to talk about how awesome it was that when Bobby grew up, everybody was going to call him Mr. Cool. And Bobby would say, yeah, that's what people call my dad. When I was in 4th grade, I had friends. I got along with pretty much everybody. I was a pretty big tomboy. This is me actually in the 5th grade. You can tell from this picture my dynamic speed and potential as a basketball player. But I got along with pretty much everybody, but I wasn't one of the cool kids. I did not sit at Bobby Cool's lunch table. So one day Bobby Cool comes up to me, and my heart's kind of beating out of my chest because Bobby Cool is coming up to me. And Bobby Cool says, hey, at recess today, when we play basketball, you should challenge Curtis to a shooting contest. And I was like, well, Curtis is terrible at basketball. Why would I do that? And Bobby gets this huge grin on his face, ear to ear. And he just says, exactly. And I knew in that moment that whatever happened at recess, if I said yes, it was not going to work out well for Curtis. But Bobby Cool was talking to me. Bobby Cool wanted me to do something. And so I said, oh yeah, sure, that sounds great. So all day, the 4th grade is a buzz about this shooting contest, this showdown that's going to happen between me and Curtis at recess. And we finally make it out there. It's a hot black asphalt outdoor basketball court. And it felt like whole elementary school was crowded around this shooting contest. And I have never felt cooler in my whole life. I was going to crush Curtis. I was going to look so awesome. Everybody was going to want to high-five me. I was going to be at Bobby Cool's lunch table the next day. I even remember, I have a very vivid memory of this. I bounced the ball over to Curtis, and I said, Curtis, hey, let's make this fair. we're going to play to 10 and I'll spot you 9. And the whole crowd is, oh! Never, I thought I could walk on water. It's the coolest, to this day, the coolest I've ever felt in my entire life. So the shooting contest goes like you think it might. Curtis airballs pretty much every shot. And I'm hitting maybe about half of mine. And we get to the point, it's tied 9-9, and it's my shot, and I'm about to take the final shot, and I'm going to make it. I'm just going to drain it. And I am envisioning the entire crowd, all of my friends, Bobby Cool, and everybody else that sits at his lunch table, rushing the court, hoisting me up on their shoulders, celebrating me. It was going to be the best moment of my entire life. So I let go of the shot, and it swishes, and that ball hits the ground, and I'm looking around for everybody to come and tell me how great I am, and there's nobody. And I turn around, and what I see is Curtis with his shoulders slumped over and his eyes on the ground, and every single person in the 4th grade circling around him and closing in on him like a pack of wolves on a wounded animal and telling him that he's a loser and a freak and a moron. And I looked and I made eye contact with Curtis. And I could see it written on his face. I am worthless. I'm nothing. Do you know what it feels like to treat somebody like dirt because you thought it would make you feel good? I bet some of you do. I bet some of you have done that before. It doesn't feel good. It feels terrible. It feels like you're covered in gunk that you can't get off of you, that is suffocating your soul. See, what I didn't realize when I was 10 years old, but I know now looking back, is Curtis probably wore that same disgusting Colorado Rockies shirt to school every day because he didn't have that many other shirts, or because the people who were supposed to be taking care of him neglected him. Curtis probably made up lies about his dad because he didn't even know his dad. He didn't go home after school every day to a comfortable home, to parents who loved him, and a PB&J for a snack every day like I did. I think the hardest part for me is I have no idea where Curtis is. I will never have the opportunity to apologize to him, to ask for forgiveness for adding to the pain of his life. I have been ashamed of the way I treated Curtis on that day for 20 years, and I will be ashamed of it for my entire life. But I do not regret it. And the reason I don't regret it is because of what I learned. And I learned 2 things. The first thing I learned is the truth about me. That day, for maybe the first time ever, I came face to face with the truth about me. Here's the truth about me. I am selfish. I care more about myself than anyone else. And the only way, the only possibility out there for me to not be that way, to be any different, to care about someone else, to put somebody else's needs or feelings ahead of my own, is through the power and grace of Jesus Christ. So when I think about Curtis and this story, it reminds me of how desperately I need Jesus Christ. And guess what, guys? That is not just true about me. It is true about you. It's true about everyone sitting around you. It's true about everybody in this room and everybody who has walked the face of the earth. Here's the second thing I learned, and I think about this just about every day. God desires to use you in the life of the people around you. And if you're not paying attention, you are going to miss it. And here's what happens when we miss it. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes you just miss it, and you had an opportunity to speak love or truth or kindness or compassion into somebody's life, and you just missed the chance. But sometimes, because of our selfish nature, we don't just miss it. We actually add to the pain and the lies and the hurt of somebody else's life. For Mr. Koch and for me, Our focus is the way that you guys treat each other. The rules matter, okay? Dress code matters, being on time matters, making good decisions on and off campus all the time, that matters. But what is primary above everything else is how do you treat each other? This is what Jesus had to say about it. He said, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Don't for a minute underestimate the truth that one of the ways that God speaks into people's lives is through you. You have the opportunity and the power to speak love and truth and kindness and compassion into the lives of those around you. Do you look at other people and say, what do they need? What can I give them? What can I do for them? Or do you look at them and say, what can I get from them? We want you to be people who give. We want you to be people who are loving one another. Because 20 years from now, when you look back on your time at this place with these people, we want for you to feel love and joy and peace, not pain and shame. The way that you treat other people will affect you and them for the rest of your lives. People will never forget the way that you made them feel, and I guarantee that you won't forget it either. All right, that's what I have to share. Mr. Koch also has a story that he's going to share with you guys as well.
All right, I'm going to go as quickly as I can, but if the bell rings, just please stay seated, and I'll do my best to speed things up. So everyone just take a deep breath. Corey, sit up, take a deep breath, shake it out. There you go. Story number 2. Okay, remember, 6 key points, 2 stories, closing. So we're on story number 2. All right. Kind of just move through my notes. So this is my family to the left. This is my wife, Alyssa Lawson, who's a 5th grader on the right, Wiley, 4th grader, Jocelyn's a kindergartner, and Finn is in the middle there. I totally outkicked my coverage with my wife. Like, so lucky. You have no idea. That's another story another time. The story really begins with the guy, Finn, right there, okay? When he was about 6 years old, my wife and I, 6 months. When he was 6 months old, my wife and I were watching him sleep, and we noticed in his crib that it didn't look right. He was lying on his stomach, and we've had 3 kids, and we're like the first in our families to have kids, so all the cousins and sisters and brothers are now having kids, so we've seen plenty of babies sleep in their crib, and it just didn't look right. So I said, let's just take him to the doctor and see, and see what's up. Let's go and see. So the doctor looks at him, and he gets an X-ray. He says, it's not a major concern, but his spine is at like 12%, and like most people, or babies especially, they should be between 8 and 11. So let's what we're going to do is mark it. Okay, we'll say today we measured at 12%, and then come back in about 6 weeks. And at 6 weeks, we'll do another X-ray, and we'll see, it probably is going to correct itself, and you'll be fine. But if not, we can kind of go forward. That's the bell. Just stay seated. So we had to wait and see for 6 weeks, which is kind of brutal. If you're a parent, there's nothing you can really do. So we're just waiting and seeing. So we go, and the big day comes, and we go and we get the X-ray, and then we get this result. If you notice, not straight. Not straight by 44%. That is what is called infantile scoliosis. It is so rare that they don't know much about it. Not only is it so rare, it's never been really caught in terms of a documented case. It's never been caught so early. So we got this rare thing, and we've got this case where we've caught it really early. So you can imagine we just kind of look at this, and we get the diagnosis, we kind of get the plan, and then we kind of go into the unknown. We're really blessed. We had a doctor who was kind of like the forerunner in this field of medicine. So he was in the Atlanta market at Scottish Rite. I mean, super lucky, pioneer in the field. But we're sitting there looking at this, and you can imagine as a parent, oh my gosh, like, what does this mean? Because he's 6, at this point, he's like, 7, 8 months, and he's not walking yet. We don't know if he'll ever walk. Like, he's not really sitting up on his own yet. We don't know if he'll ever do that. I mean, you just start thinking, you go to all these bad places as a parent. So we have to go, and we have to get him casted. And this is what a cast looks like. It's pretty heavy. There's a hole for the stomach. There's a hole for the back. There's this shirt. It looks like a normal shirt. It's actually lined with silver because it has to go underneath the cast so it doesn't get a rash or like infection, because you can't take a bath with this cast on. And you can feel this. I mean, I got Billy right here. I told Billy I used him today. Is that light or heavy, you think? It's pretty heavy. Billy, how much do you weigh? Billy weighs 185 pounds. So just imagine, he's pushing that number a little bit, I think. Just imagine, think of your weight, divide it in half. That's how much the cast felt to him. He was only, I think that one right there is about 7 or 8 pounds. He was maybe 15, 16 pounds. So think about going through everything you do with a cast that starts at your armpits and goes past your hips that weighs half as much as you do. Just process that for me. You can pass that around. So in the operating day, you'll see my wife. She's right there. That's before. The middle picture is after, and then slightly after. My wife, we kind of trade off in terms of responsibility. She can't handle blood and like operating room stuff. And I can. I've seen it as a coach enough. So I go in there, and they've got this huge, it looks like a medieval century machine. It's like basically going to stretch his spine out as they apply the cast to him while he's unconscious. And like they have to basically give medicine amnesia to, not amnesia, what's that called? Anesthesia, thank you. Anesthesia to knock him out. So let me tell you this. The hardest part, I think for me, I would say the scariest thing when I felt truly helpless and scared, and that doesn't happen to me much. It just doesn't. Because I have faith, hopefully I think, that carries me through those challenges, but I felt helpless and scared as I see his eyes kind of roll back and he passes out, and then I have to leave the operating room and they apply the first cast. So that hard day was followed by more hard days. Every time I would go and he would get recasted because he would grow, they'd measure, readjust. Grow, measure, readjust. And he hated it. I mean, he hated it. People are like, oh, at least it's happened when he's young. He won't know. I'm looking at him like, no, he knows. He hates it. For me, that sense of helplessness and scared and those feelings not only returned, every time they would return and they would amplify, like they would grow and just become worse and worse. And that's just for me, and I'm not even going through that procedure. Things like sleeping, eating, sitting, and just normal day-to-day activities were completely not normal anymore. He couldn't sleep for more than 2 hours at a time because when he would fall asleep, the cast just became so uncomfortable. If he slept on the side, one cast, the blue one right there, actually started to cut into his hip. So he had like kind of he has this little scar right here. I mean, if he ate too much, he would throw up. If we weren't with him when he threw up, there was a chance he could choke. So the doctors told us, we're going to show you how to like emergency cut the cast. So they took an old cast and we learned how to emergency cut it just in case they said he needs something like CPR so he can get to his chest. My wife and I looked at each other like, we felt so heartbroken and so at a loss, like, man, how does this kid handle this? For my kids, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a blessing for them. they learned firsthand that there are people out there that look a little different. No other kid in the playground looked like that. There are kids out there that feel a little different. No other kid in the playground felt like him. So they learned things like compassion, empathy, forgiveness, love. And they were able to I saw changes in them, especially my oldest son, who was, not want to say selfish, but just kind of self-motivated and didn't really pay attention to his surroundings. He started to pay attention to how other people felt. And he got to pick up on the nonverbal communication. He could tell when people were sad or happy or angry because he was doing that with his little brother. The sleep thing was the biggest one. You can see on the left is a text message I sent to my mom. I said, notice the timestamp, 1:52 a.m. He would just get up and walk around, like, because he couldn't sleep. So, 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear noise. I'm thinking, oh, gosh, there's like a robber in the house. Something's going to walk in. He's just kind of standing there, look at me. Hey, like just kind of. I go in. I check on him some nights. He's not in his own crib. He's with Wiley. That's my middle son. And then sometimes I'd walk in, and the only way he'd go to sleep is if Lawson, who's not a small child, would climb into his crib and sit next to him and sleep with him. That's the only way he could fall asleep. All right, so today, great. All those hard days, hard suffering, hard pain. If you look at this, he's back to like 4%, which is actually better than most people. Like most adults are between 5 and 7%. So he's back between 4%. And he knew it too. Like he was so excited, saw the x-ray, super pumped, super excited. This is like over this summer. He's got to wear this cast, this last brace, this blue camo one right here. He has to wear that at night because they just don't know. Like no one's ever found it so early. No one's ever had this fast of a recovery. If you go online at some point later today and search infantile scoliosis, the first thing you see is a picture like the one I showed you of his spine, and next to it is like 3 pictures with rods and pins, and like it's awful. That's the first thing we saw. So that's where we kind of thought it was going. And it didn't go there. It went the other way, we think, we hope. But his personality, okay, and I know some people know him in this room, he is like all in. I mean, super energy, super excited, smiles a lot. I mean, you just see by those pictures, that's kind of how he is. So I'm going to read the slide to you. The greatest regrets in life are connected to listening, hearing, but simply not doing. Doing is the preparation you require to handle what's next. Whether you're a 9th grader new to the school, a senior who's going to go to college, or somewhere between, everyone is preparing and doing things for what's next. So I want you to listen to my next couple slides, because I'm almost done, because it's really important you hear these points. And seniors, it's really important you lead the way on this. You heard the first day of school, Mr. Plunk said, seniors lead the way. I need you. I will hold you accountable to leading the way on this. Here's what I learned from this story. This is why I told you the story. Story number 2 today. Everyone here carries some type of pain or suffering. This is undisputable. Everyone here has had a hurt, a loss, suffers a pain. I know for a fact there's people in this room who are carrying with them great pains and great suffering, and most of the population doesn't even know it. But it's there. Every single person has it. Sometimes you can see the pain. Sometimes it looks like a brace. It looks like a cast. And I think sometimes when we see that pain in others, we decide to treat them a little bit nicer then. But most of the time, you can't see it. Most of the time, it's like that 12% to 44% growth, where like you don't really know what's going on. You have no idea until you actually start to kind of pull back the x-ray and see what it looks like. How you treat someone can make all the difference in the world to that person at that time without you even knowing it. The world is in dire need in dire need. I mean, when we turn on the news today, it's so blatantly obvious. The world is in dire need of difference makers now more than ever. How you treat people makes a difference. All right, I'm almost there. So the golden rule, handbook stuff that you have to know aside, the golden rule. Treat others the way you wish to be treated. This is the law of forgiveness, not reciprocity. They're bad to me, I'm being mean to them. That's not how it works. Treat people the way you would want to be treated. Look to the joy motto. We have banners behind us. We have stuff over us. Look to the joy motto. Jesus, others, yourself as a guiding presence each day to do that. Jesus calls us to love other people the way he has loved you. Try to live each day by influencing others with the fruits of the Spirit. I use this one at home all the time on my kids. If you notice, the fruits of the Spirit counteract the evils in society. If you just kind of read through the list, love counters hate. Joy counters anger. Peace, war. Patience, how many people lose patience? I lose all the time. That's hard, okay? Patience, goodness, faith, gentleness, self-control, all these things. How do you treat people right? You follow the fruits of the Spirit. That's how. That's how you treat people the right way. And I want you to think I'm going to read a little bit from my tablet because I have some notes. How does this look in your life? In your life, where are you at this point? At home with your family, how does it look? With your friends? Online on your social media accounts? Are you someone that tears other people down, or do you build them up? If you could change how others have treated you in the past, would you change that? If you could change how others treat you right now, would you change that? If you know everyone, including you, carries a brokenness, a pain, or some sort of suffering, it's almost common sense to think that simply treating everyone better can, would, and does make a difference in their life. I'm going to read that one again. If you know everyone, including you, carries a brokenness, a pain, and some sort of suffering, it's almost common sense to think that simply treating everyone better can, would, and does make a difference in their life, whether you see the difference directly or not. I'm sure every one of you here has stories of love, kindness, and grace within your life's journey, both from people you know and maybe from some people that you don't know. Yet it seems that in today's world, common sense to treat people the right way is rarely common. In today's world, it's rarely common. So, understand this, and I want you to really key in. Listen, hear, and do. The Wesleyan way is different. We are not like the rest of the world. We are unique and life-changing. It is a standard to live by. It's hard to meet standards. Sometimes we fall short. That's okay. That's how you learn, by making mistakes. Life's never going to be perfect. You make mistakes, you learn, but you work towards the standard. My expectation for you as the Dean of Student Life, and I'm not the Dean of Discipline. I have to handle discipline. My title is the Dean of Student Life. My expectation for you is that everyone in this room pursues that standard through practical applications using the joy motto. Look to Jesus, how are you handling others, and work on yourself. Almost there. It's funny how things work out. Mr. Cleveland sent out an email yesterday to the entire school community, and the one line that my eyes kind of snapped to is what I'm going to finish with here today. He wrote, "Finally, we must remember that the only cure for the brokenness of this world is the gospel of Jesus Christ." Man, that was so timely. I mean, it just fits into the joy motto, our expectations, and the way we want to live. So I first want to thank you for being a part of this place. I feel called to be a teacher, an educator, and a coach, and I just feel so blessed. There's so many great people in the room, like my man Billy Stepp right there. I'm be honest. I've sat in my office with Billy. We shared conversations. He's got a great heart, and there's hundreds of people like that here. faculty, parents, students. I feel so blessed. The call for you is to please go out and work every day to meet that standard, that expectation of this place. All right, let's pray together and then we'll be dismissed. Lord, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity that we all have today to be here in this place at this time together. We understand that life is full of challenges, but through those challenges, we can come to know you. We can come to know your Son. We can come to know the eternal glory he's offering us. I pray that we have a tremendous year, that our seniors lead by example, not just in thought and word, that our freshmen learn and follow. Our sophomores and juniors learn as well and assume a greater role of responsibility. I pray for every person in here that they will go out and they will live or do their best to live to the Wesleyan standard, which is unique because it's in your Son's name we follow. Amen. Thank you.